Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om 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 Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So we are reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is. We are starting a new chapter, number 14, the modes of material nature. The three modes of material nature. Text number 1. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Param Bhuyah Pravakshyami Jnananam Jnanam Uttamam Yajnatva Munayah Sarve Param Siddhimito Gataha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Again I shall declare to you this supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained the supreme perfection." Purport. From the 7th chapter to the end of the 12th chapter, Sri Krishna in detail reveals the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, the Lord Himself is further enlightening Arjuna. If one understands this chapter through the process of philosophical speculation, he will come to an understanding of devotional service. In the 13th chapter, it was clearly explained that by humbly developing knowledge, one may possibly be freed from material entanglement. It has also been explained that it is due to association with the modes of nature that the living entity is entangled in this material world. Now, in this chapter, the Supreme Personality explains what those modes of nature are, how they act, how they bind, and how they give liberation. The knowledge explained in this chapter is proclaimed by the Supreme Lord to be superior to the knowledge given so far in other chapters. By understanding this knowledge, various great sages attained perfection and transferred to the spiritual world. The Lord now explains the same knowledge in a better way. This knowledge is far, far superior to all other processes of knowledge thus far explained, and knowing this, many attained perfection. Thus, it is expected that one who understands this 14th chapter will attain perfection. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmanitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, welcome to today's new chapter, the modes of material nature. As we can see from the purport also, Prabhupada also explains that if we can somehow or the other understand this chapter, then what is going to happen? We will achieve supreme perfection just by understanding this chapter. And he's saying he is giving this knowledge so that we can attain that supreme perfection. But the choice is ours whether we want to or we don't. So whole chapter is on the modes of material nature to enlighten us, because these modes, they entangle us. If we work in either goodness, passion, or ignorance, they entangle us. So from this chapter, we will be able to understand how the modes are affecting us, how to become free, how to transcend these modes, and how to become liberated from these modes of material nature, which means even to be in goodness is not good enough. We have to go beyond that. Beyond that is pure goodness. So, with this knowledge, Krishna says to Arjuna that the great sages have achieved perfection. And by this knowledge, one can go back to the spiritual world. So, the goal of this chapter is to attain supreme perfection. Let's see what Krishna says. I'm going to read till verse number 5. And if you remember, I posted a message if you can read from verse 6 through 19. If you were not able to, I'll give a summary of that because there's a lot of information in the purport. Verse number 2. By becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation or disturbed at the time of dissolution. So, this itself gives us an idea that if we want to break from the cycle of birth and death, all we have to do is understand this chapter number 14, because he's saying if somehow or the other we can fix our mind on this knowledge, then we will attain transcendental nature like Krishna's. Can you imagine? Transcendental spiritual nature, and then we will not be born again, and then at the time of death also we will not be troubled. So to attain transcendental nature like Krishna's does not mean that we will lose our individuality. No, we will still remain individual souls. Krishna will still remain the supreme super soul. There will be no mergings like some people think that, liberation means you merge into the body of the Lord or you merge into the effulgence of Krishna. No, that is not what he's talking about. Now, material knowledge, does not help us to really get rid of these modes. It does not help us to transcend these modes. What happens is material knowledge only gives us material results. Like we do this, this is the result we get. But here Krishna is saying that if somehow the other we can understand this chapter and engage in devotional service, then he says, what is devotional service? Devotional service is understanding the Bhagavad Gita, following the Bhagavad Gita, following the instructions of Krishna and Guru. Then what will happen? We will be able to transcend these modes. Now, spiritual knowledge is not contaminated with the three modes of material nature. That we have to understand. So, if we want to go to the spiritual world, now this is the first decision we need to make. Do we want to come back into this material world or do we want to go to the spiritual world? Now, if we decide no, I don't think this material world is a clubhouse. I'm not really enjoying. There are a lot of sufferings and miseries. I want to go to the spiritual world. For that, we will need a spiritual body, first of all, right? We have to be above the three modes. We have to have a spiritual body. And also, we have to be qualified and understand that when we go to the spiritual world, it's not eat, sleep, and be merry over there. We should not think that, oh, there's going to be a lot of opulence, there'll be no misery, permanent happiness, I don't have to go to job, nothing. No, the only the person who's qualified to go to the spiritual world is one who understands, I'm a spirit soul, I'm not this body, and my constitutional position is to serve Krishna, because I'm not the enjoyer, I am not the controller. So with that mentality, when we go to the spiritual world, then we will have that intense desire to serve the Lord. Then we will not be forced. Like now we are forced, to wake up early. We are forced to go to job, I haven't really met anyone in a very long time who love their job. I haven't really. People go to the job because they have to. Otherwise, who's going to pay their bills, right? I haven't really heard anyone say, oh, I love my boss. I wish everyone gets that boss. No, I don't think so, right? So, to go to the spiritual world means we have to be free of three modes of material nature. Let's see what he says in verse number 3. The total material substance called Brahman is the source of birth, and it is that Brahman that I impregnate, making possible the births of all living beings, O son of Bharat. So here again we can see Krishna is explaining to Arjuna that he is the cause of all causes. So he is the one who gives the seeds for all living entities to be present in this material world. So he is the original father of all living entities. He makes it possible that we come into this material world. Now, what I'm speaking now is from the purport. So what I've done is taken a summary of the purport so that we don't spend time on reading the purport. So here Prabhupada explains what is Mahat Tattva. It is the total cause of total cosmic manifestation. And that cosmic manifestation includes three modes of material nature, and it's also called Brahman. Now, it's important to understand how do these universes appear. They appear because Krishna glances at the material nature and they appear. That's all he does. This is what this verse is saying. He impregnates the material nature, right? He impregnates with the seeds of living entities, and that is how material, these universes come into being. What does he say? He says, as explained in the seventh chapter, I'm reading from the purport, as explained in the seventh chapter, beyond this, there is another superior nature, the living entity. Into material nature, the superior nature is mixed by the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thereafter, all living entities are born of this material nature. Now, if you see the last paragraph of the purport of verse 3, gives very nice analogies or examples, you can say. The scorpion lays its eggs in piles of rice, and sometimes it is said that scorpion is born out of rice. Is that true? No, scorpion is not born out of rice. But the rice is not the cause of the scorpion. You see, actually, the eggs were laid by the mother. Similarly, material nature is not the cause of the birth of the living entities. The seed is given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they only seem to come out as products of material nature. So we can see, based on our karma, we get a particular type of body, but that also is possible because Krishna's desire is there. So every living entity gets a particular type of body, is born in a particular country, born in a particular family based on the past karma. So based on that, our actions, we are getting reactions, and based on that, we either enjoy or we suffer. So we cannot blame God. We cannot tell, Krishna, you are not a fair God, why are you giving me sufferings? Well, that is what we had placed an order for in our last verse. Let's see, what does he say in verse number 4. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed giving father. Very, very clear that he is the seed giving father of all living entities, which means even animals, birds, insects, aquatics, every living entity is the, you can say, the child of the Supreme Father, which is Krishna. So can we take a life of another child of God? No, we cannot do that, right? That is why Bhagavad Gita tries to explain to us that because Krishna is the Supreme Father, we should treat all living entities equally. We cannot harm any living entity. So he is the Supreme Father of all species. That's why we see there are living entities are there in all the planets, all the different planets, even in Brahmaloka, even in Surya Loka, where the sun planet is, right? So one may say, how is it possible for a living entity to survive the heat, right? Well, they get that particular kind of body which is made of fire that can stand that heat in the sun planet. So there are 8.4 million species of life. There are living entities, in the water, in the sky, on the land, in fire. There are so many living entities. So who is the mother? Material nature. And who is the father? Krishna. So from this, verse where he says, Aham bija pradaha pita, that I am the seed giving father of all living entities. So that means he is the source of birth of all living entities, right? Sarva yonishu means of all the species. Let's see what he says in verse number 5. Material nature consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, O mighty armed Arjun, he becomes conditioned by these modes. You see? So, material nature consists of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And when this living entity comes in contact with material nature, there is conditioning. And then the living entity starts working in one of these three modes, or sometimes a mixture of these modes. Sometimes we are in goodness, sometimes in passion, sometimes in ignorance, and sometimes we are in goodness and passion, or passion and ignorance, or ignorance and goodness. So like there is all, one of these modes try to prevail over the other modes, like one is higher than the other. So you can say there is a competition between these modes. So that is why Krishna is saying that we need to transcend these modes so that we are able to become free from the cycle of birth and death, and we can go back to the spiritual world. Now, to reach that transcendental mode, which is of pure goodness, one needs to be undisturbed, which means nothing can disturb that person, whether it is happiness, distress, failure, success, heat, cold, whatever it may be, should be neutral in all circumstances. And not only that, even see gold as stone, or like there should be no, should not even see the difference between gold and stone. We should look at it with an equal eye. What does that mean? That person is equipoised, and that person is not materially attached, and that person is not contaminated by the three modes of material nature. I'm not sure if you all remember the story I gave about Ranka and Banka. Do you all remember Ranka and Banka? It's been a long time. You don't remember the story, yes. So, Ranka and Banka, husband and wife, they were very nice. You can say pure devotees of the Lord. And their whole life was dedicated to Krishna consciousness. So one day, Ranka and Banka, they were walking. And, in Vedic times, there was a system where the husband walked quite a few steps ahead and the wife walked behind. Then gradually they started walking together, and now the wife walks in front and the husband is lagging behind, God knows where. Right? So the husband was walking in front, Ranka was in front, and Banka was behind. So as they were walking, there was no one else on the road, it was all empty. And then in the middle of the road, Ranka saw that there were a lot of gold coins. So then Ranka got, said, oh, I don't care about these gold coins, but what about my wife? She may get attached to these gold coins, and then, she will stop, Krishna consciousness, she will stop following devotional service, and then, we'll have to come back into this material world. So he said, oh, she's still far off. He started covering the gold coins with dirt, like completely covering so that she cannot see. Well, the wife had already reached, and she tapped on the shoulder and she asked her husband, why are you covering dirt with dirt? What does that show? That she considered that gold to be like dirt. It didn't matter to her. She was not attached to gold. Prabhupada says normally women are very attached to gold, right? If they save up some money, first thing, at least in India, they do is buy gold, right? Some gold or jewelry, some ornaments, some bangles, or whatever it is. Of course, now it is diamonds, I guess. Huh? Bitcoin. What is Bitcoin? Oh, cryptocurrency. It's a currency? We can talk about that later on. I don't know what it is. It's something new I've heard just now. So the point is that the husband was Krishna conscious, but the wife was more Krishna conscious. Right? She was more equipoised, and it didn't matter to her whether it is gold or dirt. It didn't matter at all. That is the stage. That, of course, doesn't mean we take our gold and throw it on the road and say it's dirt. No, we don't do that. But understand, not be attached to our possessions, our family, or whatever, or country, or whatever it may be. Now, if you remember, I asked you to read from verse 6 onwards till 18 or 19. 18, I would say yes. So if you all didn't get an opportunity, I will give you a summary. I have made a table out of it. What do you call it? You call it a table, right? Or what do you call a spreadsheet, or whatever you call it, right? So here, Krishna in all these verses, first of all, is talking about the general characteristics of people in different modes. So those who are in the mode of pure goodness, they have a lot of knowledge, they are pure, they are happy, they are free from sinful reactions, and they are unfailing in their devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, those who are in the mode of goodness, what are their characteristics? They have relative purity. There is a little bit of illumination, which means enlightenment. They are conducive to real knowledge. So if you invite them to hear Bhagavad Gita, they say, yes, we want to hear it. They are happy and they are free from sinful reactions. So you see the difference between pure goodness and good. Now let's go to passion. They have unlimited, uncontrollable desires. Why is Krishna giving us all this? So that we can contemplate on ourselves and see in which mode do I belong. Now, in passion, unlimited, uncontrollable desires, intense endeavor, like really working hard, really working hard to make more money or to make a better situation, in the sense a bigger house or bigger car or whatever it may be. And there is greed, there is bondage, and there is attachment to fruits of action, which means I am doing this so that I can earn this and I can enjoy the fruits of my activities. Now, what about those who are in the mode of ignorance? Foolish, madness, inertia, sleep. They just want to sleep, right? I remember when we were in an apartment, we used to have these Bhagavad Gita classes. So we started a morning class on Sunday at 10 o'clock and realized no one really wants to come. Why? Because on weekends, they don't wake up before noon. So we had to move the class to the evening to accommodate, you see? So mode of ignorance, it's sleep. Now, what is the destination of those who are in these modes? The one who is in the mode of pure goodness goes back to the spiritual world, eternal abode, which is the abode of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who are in the mode of goodness, they go to higher planets. See the difference? In passion, they come back to this earthly planet because of fruitive work. And those who are in the mode of ignorance, their destination is hellish planets or in the animal kingdom, which means they take on a birth in an animal life. What about knowledge? Krishna tells Arjuna that those who are in the mode of pure goodness, they develop real knowledge. They are interested in self-realization. And those who are in the mode of goodness, they also have a tendency to receive good knowledge. But those who are in the mode of passion, they develop greed. In ignorance, again, it's foolishness, madness, and illusion. Now, what about objects of worship, right? So based on what mode we are operating, our mode of worship is like that. Those who are in the mode of pure goodness worship Krishna. Those who in the mode of goodness, they worship demigods. In the mode of passion, they worship powerful men or self-proclaimed gods. What about powerful men like worship, film stars, sports stars, politicians? I don't know, but probably, I don't know. But this is passion. And those who are in the mode of ignorance, excuse me, they worship ghosts and spirits. What about food? Now Krishna is talking about food a little bit here, But in 17th chapter, he will elaborate. From verse 8 onwards, he'll elaborate on foods in different modes of material nature. In pure goodness, the food that the devotees eat, it frees them from sinful reactions and future contamination. And they eat Krishna prasadam and it invokes Krishna consciousness. It helps them. Whereas those who are eating in the mode of goodness, yes, they eat food which is in the mode of goodness. If you go to chapter 17, verse 8 onwards, in the purport, there is a list of food. So, what is the result? It increases longevity, it purifies existence, it gives strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. It is nourishing, it is sweet, juicy, fattening, palatable, like milk, grains, fruits, and vegetables. But those who are eating food in the mode of passion, that food is too bitter, sour, salty, pungent, dry, hot. It causes pain, disease, and distress. Now, I came to know that this information, especially in the mode of passion, you can look up about Ayurveda, like Ayurvedic knowledge also confirms this, that if you eat food in the mode of passion, it causes pain, distress, and disease. Whereas food in the mode of ignorance is tasteless, stale, putrid, decomposed, unclean, remnants of others like meat, fish, and eggs. This is so it depends on what mode we are operating. Based on that, we are going to consume the food. That's why many times I, stress on the importance of offering our food. First of all, we should cook food only which is in the mode of goodness, right? Which means no onion, garlic. And then we should offer it to the Lord so that it becomes Krishna prasadam, which is in the mode of pure goodness. What about actions? So Krishna says that if a person is in the mode of pure goodness, they perform their actions only for the satisfaction of Krishna, which means they are performing a karma. They are following the scriptures like the Bhagavad Gita, and they are not interested in enjoying the fruits of their activities. In the mode of goodness, they perform according to the scriptural injunctions, as a matter of duty. There is no attachment. They renounce their fruits of activities, and that results in purification, which helps them to go to the mode of pure goodness. Now, what about passion? They perform their actions under false ego with lot of endeavor, lot of great effort. Why? Because they want to satisfy their desires. They want to enjoy the fruits of their activities, and that results in misery, because every action has a reaction. What about ignorance? If a person is performing actions in the mode of ignorance, they are irresponsible, they are violent, they cause distress to others, they are in illusion, and there is no consideration of scriptures at all. And then that leads to future bondage, and it results in foolishness. So this is what Krishna has explained up until verse number 18. Let's see what he says about 19. We will do only till verse number 19 today. When one properly sees that in all activities no other performer is at work than these modes of nature, and he knows the Supreme Lord who is transcendental to all these modes, he attains my spiritual nature. See, if one understands that these modes are working, then one knows Krishna, who is transcendental to the modes, then one attains to the nature of Krishna. Basically, bona fide knowledge is very, very important. It should not be just random speculation, but bona fide knowledge. So from a certified teacher, we can learn how these modes operate. We can learn how to transcend these modes, how not to be in ignorance, passion, or goodness, but go to pure goodness. Because Krishna, of course, Krishna is the spiritual master, as Arjuna also accepted him in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. So we can see that Krishna as a guru is guiding us through this Bhagavad Gita. He is showing us how to become fully Krishna conscious and transcend these modes, to understand. So now if supposing we consider that these modes are our enemies, so how do we conquer the enemies? Simple formula: get knowledge about the enemies, right? When you know where is the enemy, what does the enemy do, how does the enemy act, then we will be able to conquer the enemy, right? That's common sense. Same thing these soldiers they do, not soldiers, or like Arjuna, you can say, he contemplated on the whole situation. That's how he was able to figure out, with the guidance of Krishna as his guru, how to conquer the enemy. So it's important to know our spiritual position. We need to understand that we are spirit souls. Our constitutional position is to serve the Supreme Lord, and we should understand this is a material body. The soul is embodied by this material body, and we have the senses. Senses are also working, and understand how we are getting trapped, and also understand how to disentangle ourselves from this material body. So, if we take the association of the spiritual master, of the Bhagavad Gita, we take, guidance from devotees, then we can understand our real position. Then we will understand how these modes are operating, and then we will be able to become fully Krishna conscious. We will go above these modes and come to pure goodness. Let's see one last verse, number 20 today. When the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes associated with the material body, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses, and can enjoy nectar even in this life. Isn't that beautiful? So we don't have to wait to go to the spiritual world to enjoy. Here he says you can enjoy nectar even in this life. That is the result of transcending the three modes of material nature. We become free from the cycle of birth and death. We get permanent happiness even in this life, which means while in this body, the spirit soul becomes liberated and enjoys spiritual life even in this material body. Just like in chapter 2, Krishna talked to Arjuna and he explained, Dehino asmin yatha dehe kamaram yovanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatra na muyati. We have to become a sober person, because the embodied soul is going from boyhood to youth to old age, and then at death is taking on another body. So we should not be bewildered by such a change. Now, how to free the soul from this material body? How to come out of this bodily concept of life? Krishna explains that if we take on this knowledge and we practice this process that is given to us, this Krishna consciousness, then at the time of death, we will be able to go to the spiritual world, which is Krishna Loka, which means go back home, back to Godhead. Now, if somehow the other we can become serious about this knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, then we will also be able to trick Maya. Maya is there, illusion is there, right? We go out of the house, we see the billboard, and we say, aha, I want that. What is that? That's Maya, right? That is trying to attract us to material things. So how can we trick Maya? Once a man was going through the forest, and he noticed excuse me, he noticed that there was a cage and there was a tiger in the cage, and there was a conversation going on. This is just to understand how to trick Maya, right? This doesn't happen really, but just to understand. So there was a conversation between the tiger and the man. The tiger said, oh, you're such a nice man, look at you, you look like you're very intelligent, maybe we can be friends, what do you think? So the man said, no, how can a tiger and a man be friends? There's no way, like the tiger said, no, I'm telling you, I'm not like other tigers, not at all. They are all mean and bad and they eat human beings. I am not that type. So somehow the tiger convinced the man that if he opens the cage and lets him out, The tiger will go his way, the man will go his way, right? So, stupid man, he opened the cage and let the tiger out. As soon as he let the tiger out, the tiger wanted to pounce on him. He said, "Oh, hold on. What happened to your promise? You just promised me you go your way, I'll go my way." The tiger laughed and said, "Do you think my nature is like that, that I'll just leave you and go? You're my food for today," right? So at that time, there was a saintly person walking by, and he saw this, both of them fighting. "No, don't eat me. No, I'm going to eat you," kind of situation. So the saintly man said, "What's going on? Can you explain to me?" So they both started talking at the same time. The saintly man said, "No, no, no, I cannot understand. Let me ask this man, how, tell me from the beginning, from the very beginning, tell me what was the situation." So the man said, "Well, this tiger was in the cage." The saintly man said, "What do you mean, he was literally in the cage?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Okay, tiger, go inside. Let me you know rewind and think what exactly happened, then I'll be able to help you." So the tiger also went inside, and then the man said, "Well, the cage was locked." So he said, "Okay, lock and see." Okay, so he locked it. Now the saintly man told, "Now man, you go your way, let him be inside." You understand? He tricked the tiger. That is how we need to trick Maya. Whenever we see someone, something or someone attracting us, the what you call the bulb of intelligence should light up and say, "No, no, 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 I'm not going to fall in this trap." We have to contemplate, use the intelligence and think, is this something that is good for me? Is this something that is going to help me transcend the modes? Or is it going to put me deep into the mode of passion? Right? This is what we need to understand. We need to think about it. And so this chapter is very, very, very important, because we are working in all these different modes every day. Right? In the night, we are in the mode of ignorance. Why? Because we are sleeping. In the daytime, we are in the mode of passion, because we are like going after to make more money. We are going after, we are working hard, we are endeavoring. That is mode of passion. That's why it is said that if we can somehow or the other make use of the morning time, it is said morning time is mode of goodness, afternoon passion, nighttime is ignorance. So in the morning, if somehow or the other we can find time to do some chanting in the morning, at least one round in the morning, then what happens? Then our mind starts working on that mode of pure goodness. Then throughout the day, we start operating in that mode. Then when passion or ignorance comes in, it doesn't affect us, right? So this is how this chapter is describing. Of course, we will end the chapter next Wednesday, but this is up to verse number 20. So